Hey guys, and welcome back to another Fleetyards mission briefing. As always, I'm Captain Foley.
I'm Connor Coggins. Hey guys.
And so what's I don't know what ship we're looking at today. Samuel, do you happen to know? Because I don't know. I haven't checked my chalkboard over here, even though I don't have one over here.
Well, this is actually your pick, but it is worth mentioning
What?
Fleetyards Mission Briefing is the show that brings you 1080p renders of all the wonderful ships from the big sci-fi verse. See, it was your pick, so I guess I get to do the intro a bit more this week. We looked,
Well, I was
theorized.
getting to that, but go ahead.
Haha.
I'll just have my coffee.
Stuart, what should we look at today?
Today we're looking at the ship from 2001: A Space Odyssey called Discovery 1. Now this is like a sci-fi classic as far as ships go, as far as most people are concerned. So yeah, I'm a big fan of this ship personally. I think 2001: Space Odyssey is an excellent movie. Yeah, even its sequel is as well. But this ship is, I think, something that's very realistic in the world of the next advancements as far as humans going out into space. So, thoughts?
Well, I got to ask you before I say my first. Did you see the movie when it first came out?
Not when it first came out, no. I don't know how old I would have been.
I guess I'll give my first reaction first because we're doing it all around this week. I saw 2001 probably a decade ago, and obviously, like, being that young, I appreciated elements, but it was very slow. The pacing isn't very good, but on purpose, I think. Like, it's a unique sort of pacing. And the ending I didn't like at all, but again, I haven't watched it since. And this shit made zero impression on me at all. Although the thing he flies in, the little pod did, that I thought was kind of cool. And the spinny station I remember as well. But this I barely remember. Now looking at here, I certainly buy it's a bit more realistic. It even has it has a wonderful Star Trek / Star Wars
Marriage?
Yeah, it's got the Daedalus and Pastor Ball, and then sort of Star Warsy bits, engines and such. But I mean, yeah.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I mean, this is a perfect advancement as far as what's the next step for humans going out into space. I think it makes perfect sense. It's got artificial gravity. It does have the habitation module, which has a centrifuge, which creates about 1/6 G, so not a full G of Earth, but you got a little bit of gravity.
Like you stick to the floor, but if you jump, you can go a bit higher. Sort of thing.
Exactly. Yeah. So I love that aspect of it. There's also the pod bays. I mean, the ship when you first see it, I think it looks a lot bigger than it actually is, because it's for lengthwise, it's only 141 meters long.
Yeah, we'll obviously get into that in a little bit, which is awesome. I mean, to me, it does look like a bigger ship. When you look how big that, it's one of those strange things because you can't imagine that middle bit is just like a single person walkway. It feels like that should be a bit chunkier. The engines are big. The deflector dish is something big and strong. If I'm right, in 2001 we skipped time a couple of times. Like we jump forward a bit. Isn't because in the second timeline they have to generate rotational. Is this don't they jump again and they have this ship which is they don't need to generate artificial gravity because they've got generators rather than spinning. Isn't that a thing? Don't they have a pre-spaceship? Is the latest spaceship?
No.
Okay then. I've not seen the film in a long time, guys. But Stuart's pick. I mean, what was your first impression? You said it makes more sense, but why does it make more sense realistically as an evolution? And how? Yeah, I mean, talk us through.
It's so simplistic. I mean, you've got your habitation module, and then a long corridor separating you from the very destructive, powerful engines should they explode or whatever. I mean, you've got some kind of safety net there, I think. Yeah. They're not right behind the habitation module. So if something does go catastrophically wrong, you can theoretically maybe drift in space till you die instead of blowing up. Also the fact that it has the huge antenna array facing back towards Earth. Because this ship was made to be a one-way trip out to Jupiter, to study Jupiter. And then they would be picked up by Discovery 2, which was actually never completed, but that's another story. So it was made to be a one-way trip, this ship. So, but yeah, that, and you mentioned the deflector at the front. It's actually the pod bay. There's actually 3 little, like almost like work bees, almost little pods that have like arm attachments that came out of those.
Yeah.
And when you see a picture of them with, or a picture of the ship with the pod coming out, you can really get a sense of scale. Because those pods are one-person crafts.
Yeah.
And when you see it coming out, you can really go, oh, well, okay, it's not as big as I first thought.
So was this the ship that only had those two guys in then? I'm not the actor that played Gary Mitchell in the original. So is it a two-person craft? Two crew?
Yeah.
Huh.
And Hal, of course. Which,
yeah. Well then...
which ironically, a lot of people don't know this, but if you take the letters HAL, and then it was supposed to be an acronym for IBM, but IBM didn't want their name being associated with something that goes so drastically wrong as HAL does. So they just moved the letters one forward each, HAL instead of IBM. Interesting little fact. But
IBM hasn't got as good a ring to it as a homicidal computer.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, obviously this is a fan model, so all the pinches of salt as you need to, details are as they are, and the person puts as much detail as they want to. But yeah, it was kind of fun to. I mean, we got some odd ships coming up on Fleetyards in a good way, and they all involve different lighting. And it was been fun to light these very, other sorts of era ships, to make them look sort of good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, so let's actually move on to the next picture. Oh, here we got a scale one. I like this. All right. So this is very interesting. We got the Delta Flyer. That's
obviously the scale default. These are all original models except the Discovery. You've got the Delta Flyer, Type 9 shuttle, Colonial 1 from Battlestar Galactica, and an Alcash from Stargate. And obviously the NX-01, but you can all read that.
Yeah, and to be honest, like I said, ever since I first saw this movie when I was a lot younger, I always assumed the spaceship was huge. I don't know why. It's because growing up watching Battlestar Galactica and things, I assumed it was probably the same
and Star Wars
as Galactica.
And such.
Yeah, Star Destroyer kind of size. But then you see it scaled down to the proper size, and it's actually quite small, which again makes perfect sense when you think about it. It would take a lot less to power it.
Yeah.
And get it propelled out there, and then for oxygen and stuff, it's extra space when you don't need it.
It's kind of like a probe ship, isn't it?
Yeah.
And one thing I like about it is that you can tell that it's super. I don't know if this was the original design decision, but it looks as if it can. It's very sort of piecemeal, and each part can be replaced and retrofitted and swapped around a bit. Very organically. You can just okay, for Discovery 2 we're gonna add 3 more chains in the middle and add a bigger front bit and a bigger back bit, and same base design, but now you've altered it. But it's really, I mean, if it's a 2-person craft, already you've got a very small ship. And it is 2001. Is that the time the ship is from?
Yes, that's when it gets launched.
Yeah. So even though they're looking forward in the future, it's not the far. They're going to inner system, travel. So it's every ship in this picture is light years ahead of technology. But it's for me, the one thing I really think is it looks very weedy. It looks very thin and very. Yeah.
Which, again, speaks to the realism of it. I mean, it's not. Why have extra space and stuff when you don't need it? Space. Interestingly enough, it is nuclear. It's powered by a nuclear reactor.
Oh, okay.
Which again makes sense for the time, and that's probably another reason for the separation between the habitation module and the drive section. So,
but you talk about lack of space. Well, if it was trying to be a progression of NASA technology, the interesting thing about those sorts of ships, one of the many things, is that it really is just this thin piece of metal between you and space. Because they needed that to be able to lift off and all these weight calculations, and so it does feel like a very thin, very just what they need / can afford to do. And then you compare it to like Colonial 1, a luxury liner, and it's like, oh, interesting.
Yeah.
And it does make you think. The Type 6 shuttle. I mean, and the Delta Flyer are pretty big. It's just a way to scale these things, which is why we do them.
Yeah, and it's like the whole habitation module is almost the size of, just a little bit bigger than the bridge module of the NX-01.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
it's not big. You could walk this whole thing in probably a few minutes, max.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
It's cool.
All right, so next picture, shot from the side.
Even more things in reference to show off some other interesting comparisons. We've now got the Firefly, we've got the Runabout and the Nova class, which is obviously skipping an era because new ships can be small as well, and the Millennium Falcon. What do you think about that, Stuart?
Again, wow! When you compare it to the Falcon, you see really how small it is, eh? Especially for the cockpit and stuff of the Falcon.
It is a very, very small ship. Yeah, it's kind of blows you away a bit. It has so much character, and it's very, very small.
Yeah. I don't know. Like they just kept the simplistics of it. Like honestly, you got the habitation module where the crew lives, the computer area that's really huge for some reason, which has isolinear chips almost. And then your maintenance and repair pods, which are the pods at the front there. So
it does certainly look. All of these different ships, apart from the Alkesh, are an evolution of humanoid, humanoid technology, and all in different directions. The Firefly is more rustic. The Falcon is whatever Star Wars you can say that design is. The Colonial one is a bit more smooth lines, and this Federation ship's obviously of their own sort. But the Discovery does feel like the only ship that follows the NASA sort of really simple, functional, evolution, and yet I don't know. Although, I don't know. It looks the most real out of all of them, but
I would say that.
Boy, is it weedy. I mean, that's that thin bit. Yeah. I mean, one asteroid. Yeah. It is tissue paper. That middle bit is absolute tissue paper. Yeah. In terms of being destroyed.
Yeah. Another thing that I really found interesting and actually, again, found realistic is the fact that it's a one-way trip ship. It's not designed to come back. And Discovery 2 was never completed on time for the first movie. I don't know if Discovery 2 was in 2010. I think it was, actually. That was called Discovery 2. But that's another story altogether. I think this is something that NASA would actually do. I mean, if you have a plan to go pick your astronauts up, again, as simple as possible to keep your people alive.
So was the plan then to go to Jupiter, and then because the trip would take months, years, the advancements in technology would lead to the second ship being faster, bigger, and more efficient, would then pick them up and then come back? I mean, it seems...
Yeah, I kind of believe that. Again, I'm not 100% sure of all the details as far as that goes. I'm sure that's explored in the book and stuff. I don't know if it's really mentioned much in the movie. But I know the mission profile actually changed after they found the monolith on Earth, and then knew it was related to what's going on Jupiter. The mission for this one was extended a little bit, so just an interesting little fact. So
yeah, but again, it makes you realize how small the Millennium Falcon is, and actually how big the Nova class is.
Yeah, well, again, Nova class is not a big ship.
No, it's all about the extra decks. You can have a thin ship, but if you've got those decks to pack in those rooms, yeah, cool.
All right, so the next picture, we got a shot of the big nuclear-powered engines at the back.
This detail makes me laugh a bit because it really does feel like a 19 whatever, old worldy physical model throwing panels at it, like the Star Wars builder, like the Aliens physical model, but like that sort of. I mean, this could easily be the Nostromo. That back part is so generically that time period, and I love it for that.
Yeah. One of the things that I find funny about this is later, for Spaceballs, the back of Spaceball 1 looks almost exactly like this when it transforms into Mega Maid. It's got the little sections that go in. Anyway, long story.
I haven't seen that, Stuart. Mega Maid? Oh dear, that sounds...
You haven't seen Spaceballs?
I've seen a little bit. I don't know. You're right. I know it's silly, so you'll be in the right mood to see silly films, aren't you?
Well, yes. Anyway, sorry about that then. But anyway, obviously they took cues from this ship in designing that. So
so this is nuclear powered. Does that mean it's sort of ion propelled? There's no there's no liquid fuel. It's all ion engine. It's all energy causing thrust. Because it's nuclear powered, I assume.
I would imagine so. Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, it doesn't have a lot of storage room back there as far as size goes.
No.
So,
Certainly.
yeah, that makes perfect sense.
But it doesn't look like it has a lot of thrust, though. It doesn't look like they've gone for, let's get them there quick so they can do the mission. They haven't slouched on that,
Yeah, yeah. And quick is relative. I'm sure it still took quite a while.
Yeah,
I can't remember how long it. Yeah, I can't remember how long it did take in the movie. It was quite a while, but yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so next shot. Again, just a very cool.
It's very
cool shot of it.
I put this one sort of like, I do the same angles each episode. That's sort of the point, but it's very flat. That back is very flat. I mean, I'm assuming it's been built in orbit. I mean, it's kind of hard to imagine this has been. With how flimsy the pieces are and how the shapes are so radically different.
Mm.
You couldn't really build this on a planet in one piece. I mean, this is all being done in orbit, I assume.
It was built in a cornfield in Iowa, don't you know?
Yes, sorry, yep.
Yeah. I don't know. See, it's rocket. It's almost like a rocket shape. It could have been built on a landing pad vertically on Earth.
Ooh.
A little bit sketchy, but I'm pretty sure this was built in space like the ISS would have been. But yeah, I'm pretty sure it was built in orbit.
I mean, you can obviously bring pieces up.
Well,
and then you assemble it.
And the thing is, too, I don't think if it was built vertically on Earth that it would be able to launch, because you would need the thrust of a rocket with the fuel, and this doesn't have that. I don't think this has like chemical rockets at all to actually get thrust. So, the fact that it's made in orbit makes sense. Yeah,
I think that middle section is just you couldn't build it strong enough to withstand the G forces of an initial, breaking atmosphere. I think this would be it's not certainly not aerodynamic, is it? If this was going into an atmosphere, it would have a problem, a slight problem.
Next shot. Again, it's a very close-up shot of the front module. Here you can kind of see the scaling. I mean, if you put a person in that window, this thing's will be like two decks, almost. You got the pod bay at the bottom, and then like the command module at the top.
Oh, okay. Oh.
The centrifuge part, I think, is in the middle of that ball. I think it spins this way. Trying to remember from the movie. I know like he's running down the thing.
Yeah. So I'm wondering, is that in the space station earlier in the movie?
Well, there's the space station too, but trust me,
okay.
It's a lot more pronounced, the curvature when he's running later, and it is on the ship.
Okay.
So I'm just wondering where that is where it is in here, but it would make sense that it's probably sideways, perhaps.
Yeah, so you think then that window is a window, not a full deck size?
Oh, it's not a full deck size at all. Absolutely not.
So where are they sleeping then?
Well, the habitation module, the part that turns, when he's running, there's like computers on one side, a bed on the other, and then he runs keeps running, there's another bed. They don't need a lot of room or privacy because there's only two of them. Really.
Oh, do you think then that maybe, obviously this scale could be off, what if the window is slightly off and like the start of the window is where the deck is, that grey bit is the rotation bit, and then the pod is right at the bottom, because there's always no space for that. I can't imagine there being, unless it's one big open room, because I mean this two decks, this would make way more sense to have a big open space. You got the rotation spinny bit, and then you I guess walk up a ladder to the control bit, walk down a ladder to the pod bay bit, because I can't see that.
That actually makes a lot more sense.
Yeah. Again, we don't watch these things in advance because we want to give you the unbiased sort of... If we told you all the facts, you already know. That's one thing. But we're looking at it from a fresh perspective of trying to analyse and work out and use our knowledge of sci-fi to try and make interesting new points, without just knowing everything in advance. That's part of the fun of this show. Obviously, you guys are screaming, "Oh, well, we'll go watch a movie." It's like, well, we will after the fact of the full episode.
Yeah.
And that's why they're both interesting ships. So, do you think then, and I think it probably is, there's that right-hand door, looks like an actual airlock?
Yeah.
So that's...
Which I should look up a schematic of this thing to find out about that habitation ring, because I think you're right, that it would be that gray ring around there, would probably be where that is. Because that would make more sense internally for me. But yeah, that's to get outside the ship, that little airlock door.
Because if that's a person, then it is a good 5 people tall from the tippy to bottom boat bit. That was awfully said, but top to bottom. But if that door is literally right at the ceiling of that deck, then you have the rotation bit, and the window's slightly off with what's in it is window slightly high or whatever. Then you have that control bit, and then above that is. But I hadn't thought about that.
Because the rotation bit could be sideways.
Well, I think
it is all one deck in one room, and so when you put a person sideways, you have a lot more room as far as that goes. Yeah. And then you climb up the ladder to the part that's not. There's no gravity up there, but that's where the HAL command module and stuff would be.
Yeah, because you can't do the spinning any other way, can you, with it fitting in? See, again, I know the classic scenes, but I haven't watched it in so long that I don't put the pieces together. Like I can't. For me, the HAL bit felt like it was in the middle of a bigger ship, and then the rotating bit was a space station. Like all these different memories I have, to make them fit into this physical bit is very tricky for me right now. I'm actually excited to go watch those scenes again and say,
Yeah, and it's been a long time since I've seen the movie as well, to be fair. And I haven't actually sat and watched it from beginning to end, I think, ever. I always just... I've seen the whole movie, just never all together in one sitting, I don't think. Which is a shame, I know. I should be stoned to death.
For me, it's like Blade Runner. I'm just... some people love it or hate it. I'm just in the less... I know it's good. Doesn't mean I need to like it, sort of camp. Blade Runner's better, I think, than this film, but I don't know. This is not my my favourites. Yeah. Cool. So, but I hadn't considered though. Whenever you talk about spaceships, they always have their own separate room as a bunk. But you're right. If it's two people, they're presumably very good friends. I believe they are in the movie. You're right. All they need is a cot against a wall, and I'm assuming they take shifts anyway. So neither of them are asleep at the same time fully, because obviously they're on a mission. They're trained astronauts, So why not? I mean, personal space. I mean, if you need personal space, just go walk to engineering bin and sit at a desk. Sit at a desk for 20 minutes and cool. All right, lovely.
Next shot here, we got close up of the center sections.
And what do you think about my lighting for all these shots? Because it's a very white ship. What do you think?
I like it.
Yeah.
I think it looks fantastic as usual.
I'm getting better, guys. You guys benefit from it. The scaling when you take this portion, the scaling feels so big. Like this each of these containers feels like, a shipping crate. Those big ones by a dock. Each one, because it's like 3 combined. Like it feels like a big crate, if not bigger. And then. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. That's the
one thing I'm really taking away from this whole episode is I always, when I was younger, assumed it was so much bigger.
Yeah.
It never even occurred to me there was only 2 people on it, and and even when you see the little pods launch, the maintenance pods, it's like never clued in that that's a 1-person pod.
But the clues were there, Stuart.
They were. I just wasn't paying attention. I was probably bored when I was younger. For a kid, this can be a very boring movie. There's a lot of long silences.
Just the pacing isn't very good for a movie, but it's very good for it. Yeah, it's a difficult one to watch sometimes. Yeah. So do you think each of these pods are actually a room that they can move into, or do you think it's the technology? Like maybe each pod is a science zone with a walkway in the middle?
I think there's probably a walkway in the middle to the engineering section, and the rest would be like oxygen recyclers or water storage, something like that.
That makes more sense. Yeah, I mean, if they had to get together for 100 years, 3 months, a year, you need to have lots of oxygen, lots of food, lots of
So a lot of that would be storage, I would assume, for food and water, and then of course you got the command or the communications module kind of in the middle.
Yeah,
which is probably like a little communications type of room.
Well, if you go to the next picture, we have a better view of it.
Oh, perfect.
Yep, definitely a different sort of room. Feels. Yeah. I do like that design of that deflector, sensor, communications dish, having the 3. I think that's a really nice design, actually.
Yeah, and the fact that it's always pointing back towards Earth, makes perfect sense.
Yeah. Although it looks like it is on a hinge that you could point up or something.
Yeah. I might even turn based like a turret design, but I don't get that impression. I have the feeling it was probably fixed because it was only designed to go to Jupiter and then be done. It wasn't designed to come back.
Yeah.
So communications wouldn't be needed the other direction. So And the rear is here with, of course, the engineering section, which would have the nuclear reactor. I would love to see the interior of the engine room. I don't think we ever saw that in the movie, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah,
It'd be interesting to see.
Because, I mean, if it's not chemical propulsion, you don't need to store that stuff. So you just need a power source connected to engines, and that could be the back chunk. Then you have an engine room with dials and consoles and things. But I don't know, would you want to fit anything else in there? I mean, where's the scientific equipment, or is all the scientific equipment in scanners and then the pods? I mean,
that's a good question. I don't know what kind of scanners or sensors they would use, and I have no idea.
Well, if the mission is to go to Jupiter, which we know exactly what Jupiter is, at least the broad strokes, then you're only there to detect clouds, gases. I mean, you're not there to dissect aliens. You don't need a medical bay of that sort. They
were. I think they were investigating the moons too. So.
Okay. Well, yeah, that's interesting.
Like frozen surfaces and stuff. So I don't know exactly. Yeah, that's a good question about the sensors and stuff.
I feel like they need more space in this ship, guys. It needs to be bigger.
Well, guys, this actually is not the last picture, because before we go, I wanted to just kind of talk briefly about the pod again, and just show the size of it, because we might as well. So let's get a screen cap from the actual movie, and let's take a look at it. So here we see the pod being launched. You've got to remember, this is a one-person pod. If you remember the movie, he was sitting in the pod. Well, two people could sit in it, because he was talking to his friend, and Hal was reading their lips, if I recall correctly.
Yes.
I don't know if they were both in the pod.
I think so.
They were. Yes.
Well,
so anyway,
it was docked, yeah.
Yeah, two-person pod. Two people can fit in. I think one's designed to operate it. So,
Wow.
And then you can see, because in there, you can actually see the launch bay, which you get a great shot of in the movie. You can get the height of that. So.
That's really interesting, actually, and it's one of those things where I guess if there's only two people, then obviously you're losing all the pressure and all the oxygen inside the room. But if one's in the pod, one's in the bridge, I mean that's fine. And also in the picture you can also see the bridge, the slit, and there's a little person. There's two chairs. I mean you can see he's pretty small. I think it is actually bigger than the other picture implied a little bit. Again, scaling is always tricky. It's always tricky.
I'm actually looking at the picture with the launching here and the model right beside each other, and the communications module on the actual model from the movie is a lot bigger.
It could be lenses though. I mean, I was doing it at default 24mm. It's all proportional. We again, that's the pinch of salt with the fan. But wouldn't that imply it's even a smaller ship? If the bay's even bigger. But no, I actually now I'm going back to our pictures. Yeah, it's pretty bloody tiny.
Yeah, wow, even the front window on the model's a little bit off as far as the length goes and stuff.
Yeah, they've scaled it a bit wrong. I'm gonna say that. Yeah, even with, I mean, I could probably make that shot that we're looking at for the movie roughly with different lenses, and that'd be a fun little challenge. But
well, I don't know these things because I'm not a 3D modeler.
Because look how small those pods look now and how close together they are. But in R1, obviously, they go further back. And there's 6, whereas this one's 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't know, guys. Again, fan model. So that with the pinch of salt that there should be. But no, this is a great little shot. I guess we'll end on this one actually, rather than going to RCG one. I mean, closing thoughts on this ship, Stuart. What do you think?
Interesting. I'm gonna have to rewatch the movie, and now knowing the scaling, because I never considered that before. Now knowing the scaling, it's going to be a lot more. You're going to feel a lot smaller out in the emptiness of space in such a small little ship. Like, again, I always assumed it was huge, so...
Which shows you didn't watch the movie very carefully, because this shot proves it's not.
Like I said, I was young when I saw it last, and I never saw it all together.
Well,
and just
this is the beauty, because everyone watches everything slightly differently, but we here at Trekyards, and obviously Fleetyards right now, we look at this ship in a certain way that is literally saying we're going to spend half an hour on one ship, try and analyse it fully. You never spend that much time discussing in full detail, apart from the biggest ships. So that's why we love looking at the one-offs in Trek, the one-offs in other franchises, because we look at it in such a way that actually we're bringing sort of revelations and hopefully make you as an audience, think about different parts that you hadn't considered before. Because they don't normally get as much analysis as a dedicated thing. So I never thought about this ship for more than a minute previously. I'm certainly more into it now. I think what I like most about the design is that it's got very different shapes. It's very opposite in how it's designed. It has the very organic circle and yet a very basic, rectangles. It's very different in its own thing. If it was a rectangle front, it'd be very boring, but because of the way it's put together, it's actually quite a unique piece. Yeah, that's sort of, I guess, my final thought.
Yeah, and my final thought is, too, I love the inclusion of the centrifuge ring to give them a little bit of gravity. Not full gravity, because they'd probably be spinning way too fast. But it's interesting, and, again, a perfect progression as far as our technology goes. Simple ball module, and then, long extension for the engines. So I like it, but I need to rewatch the movie now. And 2010 I always thought was a better movie. I watched that a lot more when I was younger.
Yeah, I've seen both now, I think.
It's more exciting, better pacing.
Yeah, I've never seen 2010. I'll have to. I hear that the Babylon 5 ship was basically the 2010 ship, so, I mean,
Yeah, I can see that. Close enough.
Yeah. And that is it for this week on Fleetyards Mission Briefing. Thanks so much for tuning in for one of those famous sci-fi ships ever, really. One of the ones that sort of set off.
Discovery 1 from 2001. Anyway, guys, so thank you for joining us. Hope you liked the show. If you did, click like. Please put your comments down below. Any facts you know about the ship would be awesome. A lot of people know a lot about it, and other people probably haven't even really thought about it. So, interesting to get both takes on that. So, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, as always. Share it around, and if you can, go over to Trekyards.com. You can do a one-time donation if you want to help us out. That'd be awesome.
But not just that, you can go to our Patreon, the monthly donation scheme, to help a bit of regular income come to this channel, to help all the shows we do every single week, just to keep the lights on, and keep us be able to spend the time we need to make these amazing shows, and even, just everything we do, which we all do for you guys. So, tune in, and until next time, guys, I'm Connor Kongs.
And I'm Captain Foley.
And I'll see you next time. Bye, guys.
Bye, everybody.